NBC's Melanie Zanona reports from Capitol Hill. Also with me, former advisor to George W. Bush and John McCain and creator of the circus, Mark McKinnon. So, Melanie, I want to start on what we just heard there from the president, that this would be the biggest tax cut in history, and the alternative is a massive 68% tax increase. What's he talking about there?
Yeah, President Trump really trying to lay out the stakes for House Republicans here as GOP leadership races to pass this bill before the Memorial Day next weekend. And what Trump is referring to here is that at the center of this package is a permanent extension of the 2017 Trump tax cuts, which is why he said if they do not act, if they let that law expire, there's going to be a tax increase. And the bill also includes a number of other tax priorities, things that Trump campaigned on, such as no tax on tips. He talked about that in the meeting as well. However, there are still a number of unresolved issues, including how much to cut Medicaid, how much to cap the state and local tax deduction. These are huge, sticky issues that are threatening to derail the entire process, which is why the GOP leadership decided to bring in the big guns, bring in the reinforcements today in the form of Donald Trump. And his message to Republicans, according to multiple sources in the room, was it's time to put the pens down, it's time to stop negotiating, and time to get this done. Just take a listen to what GOP leadership had to say about today's meeting.
He said now it's time for everybody to unify and come together and go past the bill, because we can debate issues for months and months on end, but at some point you've got to take a win, get the best deal you can, and then go past this bill to get the economic balance that families need.
Failure is simply not an option. We have to get this done. What we're leaving to do right now is gather up the small subgroups in the House Republican Conference and tie up the remaining loose ends. I'm very confident that we'll be able to do that.
And if Republicans don't fall in line, Trump also warned that perhaps some of these members could face primary threats. So while this meeting was mostly described as a pep rally, I think Trump even said at one point that it was a meeting of love, there was a little arm twisting as well.
Okay, so Mark, here's what the president had to say right after the meeting.
I think it was a really great, that was a meeting of love. Let me tell you, that was love in that room. There was no shouting. I think it was a meeting of love.
Kumbaya, Mark. We have seen time and time again Trump move Republicans basically en masse by saying the time for talk is over. But with the concerns around this bill, not the least of which is what it would do to poor families, what it would do to people on Medicaid, what it would do to the deficit. Do you think these House Republicans will stick to their guns this time, tell the president no, or is he on a glide path?
Well, the problem is that the president didn't really push one way or the other. He just said, let's get it done. And I'm not sure that that's going to be enough because there's such a rift between the northeastern Republicans and the Freedom Caucus that I don't think just a big kumbaya is going to help much. The irony here is that this is really one big budget-busting bill, and Republicans have conventionally been the backbenchers throwing bricks around the House, but now they're in charge, and it's like the dog who caught the car. The problem for them ultimately, I mean, the bigger problem is that ultimately they'll pass something, and I think the problem's going to be is that the tariff thing was such a disaster, and Republicans kept saying, "Oh, this budget bill is going to fix everything." Yeah, I think it's actually going to make it much worse. First of all, the tariffs haven't really kicked in, and I think they're going to imminently, and it's going to be a big problem. And then when the budget bill passes, assuming it does, it's going to make the deficit so much worse. And that's the irony that Republicans who are supposed to care about the deficit over time, and multiple presidents have actually made the deficit much, much worse. And, people on Wall Street and economists are saying that there's really trouble ahead when this bill passes.
Well, President Trump twice today, Mark, stressed there would be no cuts to Medicaid, but just they were attacking waste, fraud, and abuse, and he suggested that there are multiple murderers getting Medicaid, which in this bill adds up to $1 trillion worth of cuts, not just to Medicaid, but to SNAP, supplemental nutrition to feed low-income families. I mean, are there any political implications here for some Republicans that will make them even hesitate?
There's huge implications. I mean, the fact is they can't get the numbers to work unless they cut Medicaid. And Medicaid is, they're going to try and shift that to governors, and the Republican governors don't want to have to deal with it. So ultimately, yes, And yeah, again, the bigger picture here is that there's this huge transfer of wealth going on. And the old Bernie Sanders message about, the economic transfer from low-income earners to millionaires and billionaires, people are going to understand that very clearly when and if this bill passes.
Melanie, well, let's talk about tonight or tomorrow morning. What exactly happens at 1 a.m.?
Other than members drinking a lot of Celsius and coffee tonight, this is going to be a key test for House Republicans. These next 24 hours are really going to be crucial because this is the necessary step in order to advance the bill to the floor. And there are two conservative hardliners who sit on that committee, and that's Chip Roy and Ralph Norman, both of whom voted present during the House Budget Committee meeting on Sunday. They have major issues with this bill, including how it treats Medicaid. However, I did catch up with Norman this morning after that Trump meeting, and he did sound a lot more warm to the bill and to this process. So we're getting some signs that it might pass the Rules Committee. I think the bigger test ultimately, of course, is going to be when it comes to the floor. As of right now, GOP leaders are planning to do that as soon as tomorrow, but there are still a number of holdouts. After this meeting, we are hearing that there are still some Republicans who are a no on this bill, and they want their issues resolved despite hearing from Donald Trump. And so that timeline could easily slip as the Speaker and the leadership really try to wrangle these remaining holdouts, Chris.